Hey everyone, I thought I'd give a quick update on the Tacoma I have, some of the modifications I've done since I purchased it. It's a 2016 Toyota Tacoma TRD off-road, double cab, short bed, and it has a manual transmission. It has about 75,000 miles on it right now. Done the Alcan and the Denali Highway several times, and it's been at the lower 48 on some on and off-road trips, so it gets a lot of use. But I keep it in pretty good shape because I want to own it as long as I can. But anyway, starting up front here, I have a DB Customs grill with some Baja designed Squadron Pro LEDs. I have some amber covers on them. I like that color tone a little better. The LEDs are controlled with a Skene controller, so there's no auxiliary switch. It's actually wired in line, or not in line, but it's tapped into the main headlight harness to sense when the all-arounds, the lows or the highs are activated, and it'll adjust the brightness of the LEDs depending on what my column selection is for the regular driving lights. So pretty clean, and I really like it. The little switch on the bottom there, that's just so I can plug in my block heater and battery blanket. On the side here, might as well talk about the wheels. This is a good perspective. I just put on my summer tires, and there are some TRD Pro rims from the 4Runner, 17-inch. Right now I'm running KO2s, 265, 70-17s. They really only give me like an extra half inch over the stocks in terms of just rubber height, but it's plenty, and especially in terms of the gearing of the Tacoma. I didn't swap out any differential gears or anything, and I think that works pretty well. It keeps me within a couple percent of the standard speedo. They did originally rub up front. If I did a full turn with a hard hit, they would just barely scrape the plastics. I've since put on some aftermarket shocks and struts. Up front I have some up front I have the 6112s from Bilstein, and in the rear I have the 5160s. And I have the front with a 1-inch lift, so the truck has basically been leveled. I'll back up, see if we can get a kind of perspective look at it. In the rear I do have Ride-Rite Air Bags and Daystar Cradles for them to sit in, so I can adjust the rake of the truck a little bit with that depending on what I have in the bed, but right now I usually run it leveled out. One thing that I did do when I upgraded the suspension was install the East Coast gear supply bushing on the front half shaft for the driver's side. The bearing had previously been replaced from Toyota under warranty, probably, I don't know, maybe 20,000 miles, but it slowly started kind of coming back before I even did the suspension upgrade. So when I upgraded the suspension, I changed that out for the bushing from East Coast Gear Supply, and it's been great since. Took a lot of work to get it out there, so it's not an easy project to do single-handed if you don't have a full shop, but it worked. What else? So on the side here I do have some all-pro off-road rock rails. I mainly use them as side steps. I really like the little flare out at the back here. Kind of bumps out just a little past where the tires and fenders would be. Again, I use it a lot, just jumping up to get access to the rack or anything I've mounted on the top, rooftop tent. I rarely use them or ever intended to use them as actual rock rails. I just wanted something as a side step that was a little more tucked in, but also high up and durable. So I didn't actually drill the frame when I mounted these. They're just mounted with the standard holes that were already in the frame. If I did want to run them over rocks, I'd have to drill the auxiliary holes, and add in a couple bolts. But I really like them. They are heavy. They're about 75 pounds each, so they're not the lightest thing to add to a truck, but they work well. In the rear, obviously I've added a little Tacoma black insert into the stamping. I think that just looks a lot better than pure white. The other thing that I have going on in the back here, which I think is pretty obvious, is I have a rack. The rack is from VooDoo. It's actually designed to go on either a Tundra or a Tacoma. This particular model, there's, you see the two sets of 3 bolts that allow it to slide widthwise in and out. Sorry, we got a bunch of air traffic. They're rerouting the runways this summer, so we got a lot of Boeings flying over. Anyway, the VooDoo rack has been probably one of the best additions to the truck. Super sturdy. I love how it's got a lot of the little cutouts that I use to hook in my cinch straps and tie down straps or anything I want to actually latch to the frame. I recently added a couple cleats on the corners, basically the lower corners of it, and same up front. Underneath it, mainly for the winter, I kind of put on my own homemade tonneau cover. Really, it was just to keep the snow out of the bed. I don't like it filling up with snow in the winter because it's hard to access or actually make use of it once it turns to kind of compact ice. So I put that on there, and just recently added a couple cleats. Should I want to put on a cargo net or something to keep a couple other items contained on top. I do have some tracks mounted upside down right now on the top center normally, which actually will be fairly soon. I'll have the rooftop tent mounted on top, and that'll cover it. So the rooftop tent basically lines up pretty close with the front side of the rack. Maybe, I think I usually overhang it maybe by an inch or so, so when the awning's out it doesn't touch the roof of the truck. And then I probably have it extending out over the back roughly to where the cleats are on the tonneau cover. So maybe 6 inches of it hangs off the back of the rack, so slightly shifted to the rear, but pretty well balanced. Again, normally I don't have this tonneau cover on. Oops. I'll have to pause this and get the keys and open up the rear. I'll be right back. Sorry about that, I had to grab the keys to unlock the rear. So, I want to show you guys a couple things inside. Up forward I do have a high lift jack mounted on all Pro brackets. The brackets are mounted into a third slide rail that doesn't come stock on the Tacomas. You have to buy it separate to put in an additional slide rail. So I did that, and I've had the high lift jack mounted basically since I've owned the truck up forward there, and I've really liked the position just because it doesn't impede on the width of my bed, and it doesn't hang off the rack and kind of be an eyesore or just a piece that someone is tempted to steal. Unfortunately, with the tonneau cover I made, it doesn't really have access during the winter. I don't usually use it in the winter or have the need to. If I get stuck in the snow, I've always just grabbed a shovel in the tracks. So it's not a big deal for me, but in the summer I may take the tonneau cover back off so I have easy access to it. But for now it kind of lives up forward there, and I like where it's sitting. I don't plan on changing it. I would just come up with a different tonneau cover solution for access. As for the tonneau cover, it's really just 1/2-inch plywood that is supported on some 2x2s that are running down along the side of each side of the bed, and they're bolted through the eyelets on the slide cleats. So I put on some wing nuts just so I could easily take it off if I ever had to, but I mean, once it's on there, I pretty much leave it for the season. So it works out pretty well. Cheap, easy, and effective. Keeps everything inside pretty dry. Obviously one thing I don't have showing right now is I do have a shackle hitch inside the truck that I can put on the rear receiver. Again, just something that I use for, honestly, towing other people out of the ditch. I've never had to hook a winch to it to tow myself out, but I have used it at least a dozen times to tow other people out of the snowbank. But it stays inside the truck or in the rear Rubbermaid in the back. So, yeah, if anyone has any questions on the Tacoma or mods I've done or how the Skene controller works, shoot me a message and I'll be able to hopefully answer any questions. Yep, that's it. Bye.